right, today we are going to check back, as it were, with our friend Steve Willner from Labyrinth of the Psychonaut. I looked at the radio archive today, and it was actually back in September 2008 that we last had Steve with us, so it's about time that we check back with him, as it were. Of course, I'm sure you're familiar with his video material, his productions. Check out his videos at youtube.com/soundlessdawn. Other stuff at labyrinthofthepsychonaut.blogspot.com as well. So with that, welcome back to Red Ice Radio, Steve. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, it's great to be back on, Henrik. Thanks for having me on.
It's a long time ago since we talked. What have you been up to? You're kicking off some of the video stuff here again. I looked at your latest video. Really awesome quality, great HD quality, as it were, on YouTube. They're adding very nice features there. But your latest one is really interesting, Steve. Tell us about it.
Thanks. That one was on Amun-Ra and symbolism in video games, things of that nature. I guess I've been really focusing on cryptology lately, numerology, the common thread that ties synchromysticism with things like music or the alphabet, Goro's theory, and Edamanenki, how there's basically a physical river of time mapped in the geology of our planet, and how all those threads interconnect and combine to make one solid art form of consciousness, basically. It's really quite beautiful. When I was researching all the video game symbolism, I mean, there was no shortage of it, so I just started getting a bunch of Xbox 360 games, PlayStation games, things like that I felt were like really significant as far as the pop culture icons and symbolism they were using. It's very similar to some of the esoteric concepts that are being presented in films these days. One of them was Assassin's Creed 2. The storyline is very similar to The Matrix, basically. You sit in this chair called the Animus, and you kind of jack into this alternate reality, just like Neo did. And basically what it does is it traces your ancestral memories using your DNA. So it looks for your ancestors based on the codes in your DNA. The story takes place in the second one in Rome. I'll just read the description from the Wikipedia. Your character's name is Ezio, so you have an anagram for Oz right there, and Oz is just a circumpunct eye, symbolic of the open eye of Osiris. So you travel to Rome, basically, and you're an assassin, obviously. One of your main missions is to basically figure out what these pieces of Eden are, these little puzzle pieces that are scattered throughout the world that are trying to tell you something about human genesis, the Genesis story. Basically, towards the end of the video game, I don't want to give too many spoilers for people, but I kind of have to go through the symbolism. You try to assassinate Pope Borgia, Rodrigo Borgia, and he's got an apple on his staff and all this strange philosophies behind why he's the Pope. He's not really there to help mankind or to be the religious leader at all. The game identifies your character Ezio as the prophet. After you kind of vanquish Borgia, you don't kill him or anything, you go through a very hidden secret vault area in the Vatican. You come upon this holographic chamber. Well, first of all, you open it up with this Cthulhian mythos Stargate type thing, where you actually go through the back of the Vatican into this secret lair. This holographic god presents herself in front of you, calling herself Minerva. And that name alone is interesting because it's in the OTO. That's your first stage of initiation. It's called the Minervals. It's your first rank in Crowley's Golden Dawn order. Also, in the Harry Potter film, you'll recognize it as Minerva McGonagall, that one of the teachers at the Harry Potter School of Magic is also named Minerva. And, Harry Potter's loaded with symbolism. We can get into that later. Anyway, so this god reveals herself and others as her kind were part of a far more advanced society. She says those who came before that lived on Earth created humans in their own image. So it's like hinted several times throughout the game that humans were created as a slave race, more or less. And eventually the two races went to war against one another, soon halted by a natural celestial catastrophe involving a massive solar flare, which resulted in the destruction of most life on Earth. And the remaining people of both races kind of rebuilt society. The few remaining ones who came before constructed several temples around the world, one being located within the Vatican that would help the human race to prevent the same disaster from reoccurring. So you can see like fiction blurring into reality here. The mythos of the Knights Templar and the religious sects throughout the ages that have been concealing certain truths about us coming into the modern reality of the game. Takes place in 2012, by the way, the present day. So it's sort of like the awakening of the ancient gods once again, and it ties in concepts of the holographic universe, and I thought very relevant to what I normally talk about. So, I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg with video games. If this is what kids are playing, their very malleable minds are very receptive to this. So it's very fascinating. What do you think?
Well, it's seeping into the video game culture as well, then, because as you do and many others do very well, is analyzing movie symbolism, obviously, but video game symbolism have kind of been left on the side, as it were, and there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there, and it feels to me that the writers of video games, directors, and those who put the stories together are very well versed in the occult arts, as it were. And I've seen, I can't remember if it maybe it was Assassin's Creed and all that too, because they had someone did a post on that a while back regarding some of the numerology, Kabbalistic symbolism in a number chart that shows up at the end of the game. It might have been the first one or whatever. I'm not sure about that, but it seems to me that a lot of video games, just as you say, then have this incorporated into them. And so how do you go about looking for the games? Do you read on the back and figure it out right away, or do you go by the name, or do you play some demos online and see what it's about, or how do you go about finding the games, Steve?
I play games online. I take demos and stuff like that, and people just send me emails and emails through Labyrinth of the Psychonaut suggesting games that are loaded with symbolism, and so there's just an endless amount of data to sift through. But a lot of times it's just the logo is very fascinating to me. This new Xbox game that just came out recently by Sega called Bayonetta, right? It has the word Aeon within its title, and it's got this sort of double cross of the dragon, the two T's crossed together, just like the double cross of Rome, and that just reminds me of like sacred stellar alignments like Orion and the Pleiades, and how the cross points the way to the seven hills of Rome, and the seven hills are representative on a micro scale of the Pleiades system. So, and the middle O of Bayonetta is this very like reptilian looking eye. So it was fascinating. I was curious about what the plot was about, and sure enough, you play as this Umbra witch character. So you're basically, it's a polarity thing, light versus dark, and you play as sort of the dark manifestation. That your character is a witch, more or less, a Krallian witch, and you go through the various levels killing all of the angels of heaven. Angels are your adversary in this game. So you're lopping off their heads and collecting their halos, right? Just like Sonic the Hedgehog would collect his Saturnian rings in that old game, right? When he was running around. And that's like your life source. These Saturn rings, these golden Saturn rings are your life source. There's a repeating theme, obviously, not just in video games, but in our history of defiling the sacred feminine and kind of putting that into the shadows, more or less. You work your way through the game through various avatars and deities of heaven that are guarding your way to the gates, or whatever, however you want to interpret that. And they keep hinting to this god deity, this godhead called Jubileus. So the name itself makes you think masculine. It's going to be a male god, but when you get there, it's a Hindu deity. It's a feminine deity, and you fight her in this like encapsulated energy vortex in space. And if you vanquish her, you throw her into the heart of the sun. So you have elements of defiling the sacred feminine in that way. In fact, you go head to head with the creator, and your goal in the game is to destroy the creator. So it's just a very, very extreme drama that's set before you, and dealing with very ancient archetypes of gender isolation, separation, and polarities, and playing on opposites and that kind of thing. The black and white checkerboard, like when you see Madonna and Britney Spears making out on stage at MTV Music Awards, it's, one's dressed in white, one's dressed in black. It's kind of like the husband and wife at the top of the wedding cake. It's always in polarities, right? And I recently just, the symbolism with Lady Gaga's videos, how intense those are. And I was just reading about how she might be working with James Cameron, or she already has worked with James Cameron on an upcoming video. And, everything that these people do in the media is symbolic in some way. And she was just recently on the Oprah show. So you have the Oprah, right? The Eye of Ra.
The Pharaoh, if you toss it around as well, yeah.
Yeah, the Pharaoh. And the show took place in Chicago. It's on a ley line, obviously, and it's chi. It's that sexual energy. And anytime you see the word chi, that's what you're looking at, basically. She was dressed up like the Statue of Liberty, Henrik. It was kind of funny. She's got these spiky hairdo, and she looks like the Statue of Liberty, more or less. And if you break down her name into numerology, you have Gaga, which is 7171, and you multiply that and you have 77, and that's actually the same number that represents the Statue of Liberty in New York, as she's standing on an 11-pointed star base and has a 7-rayed helmet. So if you multiply 7 and 11, you have 77, which is the exact same name of Gaga. And Gaga is also like one of the first words we say when we're babies. So it's like she has a command over our language. It's like she's using it in a way to entrap us, to enslave us in some manner, or to just distract us, because it's not enslaving me. It's not really tricking me at all. I know other people are pretty hip to it as well. Anyway, so